National Rescue Consultants presents Train to Live podcast with Herb Tyler, Greg Rogers, and Rob Ramirez. Talking all things fire and technical rescue. So pour a drink and enjoy the show.
How you doing, Herb?
What's up, fellas?
Robert?
What's going on, boys?
How's it going? Another day in paradise.
Good to
How's
see
it going,
you.
guys?
Good to see your guys' smiling faces again.
All right.
Rob, I miss you, bro.
I miss you too, boys.
Herbie,
Here
I
we
haven't
go.
seen you too
Cheers.
much lately, bro, but whatever.
To a good show, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. We got a special guest today. Looking very forward to it. We're going to dive deep into a call that he just had. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff, but before we introduce him, we want to take a moment and actually talk about one of the brothers that we lost.
All right, I'll take it. Today makes 4 years, November 29th, 2016. One of those moments in our lives where we all know where we were. If you were close to Matty or Matthew Negley, you got that phone call that day, and those phone calls are never easy. I remember Mike Salzano calling me, asking me about sitting down, told me what happened. A couple of days later, we were up in Orlando. That night, we all hung out. Matty was always the coolest guy in the room, smartest guy in the room, most interesting guy in the room. His passing was untimely and unfortunate. He's the founder of the Orlando Fire Conference. He was a mentor, a hero, a brother, and an absolute leader in the fire service, and he's sorely missed. Let's raise a glass for him, gentlemen. To Matty.
To Matty.
Go forward.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the guys that are truly missed in the fire service, man. The moment I met him at the Fort Lauderdale Fire Expo, and the moment he saw me, he just started cracking on me about my ears, and after that, we just hit it off, man. He's an awesome guy, dude.
That's weird. I can't imagine that.
Exactly.
His ears, your height, my fat.
Oh, that's okay. Here we go. Here we go. We had to go there. I'm sitting on a booster chair right now.
And a telephone book.
Just a booster.
Well, let's with no further ado, let's get this guy in here and let's start picking his brain. Hats off to Greg. Greg is the one that spearheaded this to get this going. So I'm gonna let him introduce him, and we're gonna bring him on.
I have to give a shout out to one of my crew members, Ben Schultz, because he's the one that came to me and said, "Hey man, check this out." And I want to say it just happened roughly 3 weeks ago. And I said, "Call him, get his number. This is something we need to get when it's super fresh in everybody's mind. A lot of people talk about it, but you don't have it fresh like that in their mind." So that's how this went down. So hats off to him too. I appreciate that. Got me his contacts and all that, and then I started getting in contact with Tom Johnson here, truck company captain in the Denver metro area. Like the rest of us, we don't really like to push out to our department too much because you're working in that gray area in case something a little crazy said or whatever. Spent 2.5 years as an instructor at the training academy. He's the co-founder of Fit to Fight Fire. If you guys are anywhere on Instagram, Facebook, anything, they're all over the place. These guys are legit, man. They have a love of the job, which I really appreciate. And I will admit I didn't really show much attention to Fit to Fight Fire till I started talking to this guy a couple days ago, and I started researching a little bit, and now I'm a believer. I'm in. I'll be following pretty much every move, a lot of things they do, and who knows, maybe we can even get him around here to show us a little out west tactics in the South Florida area. What do you think there, Roberto?
I think it's awesome. I've been following them, unlike you, from the get, because obviously I'm fit to fight fire. But these guys are high speed, ultra popular on the internet, ultra popular organization. Their book is awesome. If you haven't gone on and gotten it already, you should be reading it or have read it. It's a little banger. I carry it with me. The Mindset. It's a great book.
Mine's en route.
Written by him and John. John's formerly from the South Florida area. These guys are as high speed as they come, and their passion for the game and the job is contagious. And I'm a big fan of theirs, so I'm excited to have Tom here today.
All right, let's bring Tom on.
There he is. Welcome,
Tom,
to
welcome.
the show.
Here I am. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
No,
Here
man.
I am.
Thanks for coming on, man. It's I know it was a little short notice and little hassle with kids and everything, but we truly do appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us tonight.
Absolutely.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. Thanks a lot.
Very nice. Hey, so before we start diving into all the questions and everything, give the guys, some of the listeners, the backstory of how you got into Fit to Fight Fire, where it all came from. I definitely think that's a huge part of who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big part of what I'm involved with in the fire service these days, but really, I think a big portion of the beginning of it belongs to John Spare, because he's the one back in 2008, 2009, 2010 that started the social media following and was posting workouts, and really saw the lack of accountability maybe to fitness in the fire service in general. And so he used social media and Facebook and created a page and created the Fit to Fight Fire name and kind of that brand, and started pushing fitness as something that, we go to trainings for command structure. We go to trainings for, anything in the fire service, whether it might be like VES or RIC or hose movement, whatever, but we still have to have the fitness to be able to do all this stuff. That's the precursor to everything. And so I think that was where he was at, is just the human desires take the path of least resistance. And John recognized that and wanted to use Fit to Fight Fire as a vehicle to convince people and to motivate people that, hey, it's okay. It's hard thing to be, but we need to be in shape to be able to do this job. And then we knew of each other because when I got hired on my department in 2008, John had just been hired with the same department a year or two earlier. And then we started working together at training in 2014, 2015. And that's where we more or less put that fire kind of higher gear. That's where we started teaching classes locally, nationally. And we started podcasting a couple of years later, and then led to the book. And you have what we have now today.
I like it. I got my book on order, so I'm behind the curve here. Thanks for bringing me up to speed, Rob, on all that.
You got it, pal.
All right,
Great book.
Let's just dive right into it. We're gonna try to keep tonight is short. We're not gonna try to go 3.5 hours, obviously. Everyone has kids that need to go to school tomorrow, so we're gonna keep it short. This is kind of just a little Thanksgiving edition podcast, so that's what we're gonna do. With no further ado, we'll let Rob jump into it. Go ahead, Rob. Let's hit him with some questions, and let's get the show on the road.
All right, you got it. I'm going to go ahead, Greg, and start. First of all, I want to say what's up to Shane Bentley. I saw him down there. And Lee, what's going on? Guys from Georgia. Brothers of the Oath. Stand-up organization. Good firemen. Great brothers. And they are keepers of the oath, by all means. Thanks for joining in tonight, guys. So, Tom, I did listen to your podcast and the audio of the fire that we're talking about. Before we get into it, that night you talked about the call, you talked about being there at 11:30 at night, you talked about the crew you were running with, and then you talked about your tactics. You mentioned that when you got there and you finally made the decision to VES and saw that was going to be your primary means of entry and to do your search above the fire, ahead of the hose line, you thought about maybe going to the stairwell. Am I correct on that? We may have lost him.
Yeah, that was my first intention, was to split our crew, and then we would send 2 of us inside, and 2 of us would be outside vent.
All right, right on. Let's you know what? Before we even get into the question, just for the purpose of our audience, can you just give us a brief synopsis of how it all went down? Kind of like the way that you guys did it on your podcast, which was excellent. Just you know, where you were assigned to, and what you saw when you got there, just to get everybody up to speed, so we can dive into these questions. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it briefer than say 45 minutes on our podcast. But yeah, I mean, this was a 3-story multifamily residence, and the first level being a garden level. So you had 3 total stories, and we were the second arriving truck on scene. So the first arriving, I should say that the second arriving apparatus, we were the first arriving truck. The first apparatus on scene was an engine company. They sized it up. But en route, we knew we had jumpers, we had parties trapped, we had multiple callers, all the signs that you hear on radio, that dispatch hears, that you've got a good working structure fire. We had the minute we left the barn. So we pulled up on scene as the first ladder company, and we're assigned to rescue. So prior to us even arriving there, we had reports of people jumping, people being trapped, people being rescued by other people, people running out of the building. And it was apparent when we got on scene that everything that we heard en route was pretty accurate, because we pulled up to the most involved side, was the Delta side. And, this picture you have up here, that's the Bravo side of the building, but the Delta side, 3rd floor, looked exactly the same way. So you had 3rd floor windows on the Bravo and Delta side that were all chugging black smoke, potentially ready to flash, high heat. And the stairwell access on one of the sides of the building on the Delta side was engulfed, from the garden level to the 3rd floor. And so what you're looking at right here is the Delta side of the building. And you can see, the off-center window, that's going to be your stairwell window. And then below that's going to be your stairwell entrance. Mm-hmm. And to the right of that, on the 3rd floor, you'll see that those are the windows that we yesed in, and 2, we took the victim out of. So if you look at the actual boarded up window that's above the basketball hoop, so the top window above the basketball hoop, that's the actual window that we threw a ladder to. The window was already open from previous jumpers, people coming out through that same window, but we had to climb to the top of it, clear the rest of the window out, clear the sash, and then we entered through that window, which was a separate bedroom, searched that bedroom, went beyond that door, took a right in the hallway, and then entered the other bedroom, which is the window to the right, which would be closest to that corner. That would be the Charlie Delta corner. Right. And inside that room is where we found the victim that was beneath the sill, between the bed and the sill. And that's where we called for a ladder to be thrown to that window so we could take her out that window.
Okay. Is that the shed there you guys talked about? Did Tom freeze?
I think he just has.
You can see the you can see the roof of that shed. So yeah, you can see that shed, and that's where it really hampered access initially to put a ladder there, and then taking the victim out down the ladder. That's one story that Dan DeJesus, who was on our podcast, who was there, that talked about how he and his partner Bo Hodges really had to just lay on that ladder because it was at an angle to bring the victim down. So just one of those things on the fire ground you never plan on, but if you learn to adapt in training, and it just becomes the normal thing to do on the fire ground.
That is cool. There's so many good points to take away from that fire. You said a lot of big things just in that little spiel you gave us right now. So once you went inside, Tom, at what point did you decide that you were going to split your search and VES beyond the door. I myself am a fan of actually VESing past the actual door. If you search the room and isolate it, there's no reason why you can't check the immediate hallway or see if there's a continuum to the space that you're in. At what point did you guys decide, you know what, we just VES this room, we're both oriented, we split our search because I heard you talk about it, covered as much ground as possible, got to that door, and what was the mindset there when you said, I'm going to go beyond the door and continue my search? Is that something you guys practice as a company?
Well, it is something that we practice. I mean, when you're inside the building, I mean, if you can get other bedrooms searched and it's more efficient, and honestly, you know, time is of the essence, right? So coming out, moving the ladder, going to the bedroom, it's going to take a lot more time than if I feel like I can isolate and get to the next room, I'm going to do that, right? It's going to save me 4 to 5 minutes potentially to get into the other room. But you know, this was an interesting fire because I knew just going up into that first bedroom, I knew that we were going to go beyond the door. I didn't know that there wouldn't be anybody in the first room, but I knew from reports out front that there was somebody in the other room. So I knew going in that we were going to be searching beyond the door. That was one thing that I did know.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Not often you hear about that, and I know a lot of guys preach it, and to actually meet somebody that actually did it and it resulted in a grab, that just validates everything that we're teaching out there. And I appreciate the story, bro.
No problem.
And Greg has no audio. We're having all types of audio issues.
Yeah, we got
What about now?
perfect.
You got it, beautiful.
All right, sorry, I gotta take the mute button off. Sorry about that. Let's take a step back. I know that throwing the ladders and getting to the window, and you can see that it's on the 3rd floor there. So how critical was your initial size up? Because you guys said you were 2nd or 3rd in. How critical was your size up to how you were going to play the game? Because you said you had a partial 360 of the building in when you went into the, I think it was the Bravo side we were showing right here. That's kind of where you realized you were going to be making your push, because that's where the heaviest smoke was and that's where you had to get. So how critical was that initial size up versus your 360?
I think Tom's having a word away.
Well, I'd say that my 360 was more of a 270. You know, I got 3 sides of it, and I knew from that, we drove up on looking at this side. This is the side we drove up side. So we saw this first. It's the Delta side. And so I got out. Guys looked at me. You know, they started throwing ladders. They knew we had people trapped, and they went to work while I did a quick, like I said, 270. Got the Bravo, Alpha, and Delta side. And at the time I saw the Bravo side, it didn't look like what the picture is on the left here, right? You had light smoke coming out of the 3rd floor, but you didn't have that. What you had is you had already a fire on the Delta side and heavy smoke coming out of the 3rd floor. And then, of course, the window had failed in the stairwell, and who knows if the door had not open or it had failed for the stairwell entrance. And so getting to that side and seeing that the stairwell was engulfed all the way through, you know, that's what, you know, your initial plan was, hey, let's get out. Probably going to be doing extra rescues, people coming out of windows. I had in my mind that I thought we would probably be ES, but if I could get to the 3rd floor interior, that was my goal too. But made entrance into that stairwell, and that's kind of when that size came, or that change of plans happened. Because, like I said, I was passing a lot of fire, trying to get to the 3rd floor, but really not knowing a lot of the 3rd floor and where I was. So once I got to that 1st floor, engulfed, you know, didn't have a hose line in place yet. We're still the company was performing rescues as well. That's when I came back outside and said, all right, our quickest, most efficient way to get in people out that are possibly still inside is to VES that third floor on the Delta side. So then it became a kind of VES for my entire ladder company to go to the third floor from the exterior. And as it turns out, two of the guys that were in the back seat on my ladder company ended up going interior through a different stairwell and got to the third floor and were blocked by fire. So we got all the way to the third floor on the interior, but we're actually unable to pass it. So VES turned out to be the right decision for that point in time without the hose line in place yet.
I think VES is a very underutilized tool. You guys proved obviously that it works just 100%. I mean, every time it's done, you're either going to get a good look, you're going to get the grab, or like one of my favorite words that, and I'm saying this sarcastically, is you're end up getting a rep when you do it. Now, if it's a correct rep, I completely agree with it. But it sounded like you guys, the 270 paid off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, had I seen the conditions on the Bravo side that were on the Delta side at that time, I imagine I would have just split our crew to each side. So I would have been, okay, 2 to the Delta side, 2 to the Bravo side for VES. In this case, it looked like the majority of the action when we arrived on scene was on the Delta side. So we were all on the Delta side, trying our best to get to the third floor any way we could.
So one thing you said in your podcast, and it's not the only thing that stuck, but it's something I really liked, and we talked about it off the air before we started, was your backseat intuition. And I can't like, we talk senior man and all that. I think all that adds to the backseat intuition of your guys being able to make some decisions on their own that's correct, and then it kind of segues into that freelance that you guys were kind of like joking around like, we were freelancing, but I think there's a major difference on freelancing and actually getting it. And it sounded like your crew, from the youngest guy, and I actually wrote all their names down, but I think I wrote them down wrong, so I do apologize. But from your youngest guy to the most senior guy on there, it sounded like you guys got it, and you were definitely in sync and on point that day to get that done. And I applaud you for that. That was awesome.
This is the diagram.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I'm sitting here talking to you guys right now, but I didn't do this alone, and there's no way I could have. And this call would have gone much differently, and we would have been in a much different spot had I not had the 2 guys in the backseat that I did have. And their names were Jonathan Cox and Jack Thompson. And as I point, we'll probably reference our podcast a lot. We did this on all. These guys are guys that I had suffered with in training years before, right? So Dan Davis, DJ is his name. DJ came through one of my academies when I was a lead instructor out at training. So, that was my mentality as an instructor at training, is I want to do the best job I can there to create firefighters that when they go out onto the street, 1, they can for themselves, and 2, they work for anybody. So we were hard on him intentionally in training. He rose, right? He's just a gamer, right? And that was good to have him there. Jack Thompson was one of my OBs when I was an engine captain. I had him for 6-8 months. And, I've known him ever since. We still train together now. And then, of course, Jonathan Cox, who was also there and was inside VESing with me, he came out to firemanship and did the 24-hour class with us, at Firemanship 2020. So it doesn't happen without trust, right? You don't go into high heat, low visibility conditions and actually get things done in a fun like this without trust. And that's where it really happened. Like this rescue happened in all the trainings that we all did together. That was the big thing. And so the backseat intuition you talk about, I think it's huge. I mean, I've got to be able to, as an officer, trust the guys in the backseat. I can't micromanage them. I'm never going to micromanage any of my firefighters. Because when the fire like this happens, which, maybe happens once every couple of years, might be on my shift, might not be on my shift. We may go, we may not go if it's on our shift. Who knows? But when it does happen, the seat has the ability to think freely, because I can't give them every command on the fire ground. They just got to know what to do. They got to trust that I trust.
We got to dial up some we got to dial up some Wi-Fi out in Colorado, man.
Yeah, they're
Wi-Fi's on a 3-hour delay.
Yeah.
Is it that spotty? It's terrible.
yeah, it's a little spotty.
Okay. Well, let me make some adjustments.
That's all right. We can work on it. Herbie, we might have to work your magic on it. But anyways, this is the layout. Isn't that what you asked?
I did. This is the layout. This is the window he went in, and it looks like he went past room of bunk beds, found the door, hung a right, and made the grab by the window.
So that
on the adjacent room.
So talking there too, ladder obviously went up where the bunk beds are. That's when they went in. There's their oriented search. As they went around, they pushed into the other room, made the adjacent room, went in. That's where they found the Vic. And what if I remember correctly, that's where they had outside. They had a bunch of painters ladders, and one of their crew members kind of picked up on it that you're not gonna be able to bring two people down those ladders. They're gonna fold in half. So that's kind of where all that went down. We can confirm with him when he comes back on.
And where you see that it was oriented is that if you talk to Tom and you hear the previous conversation, he talks about how he had already been pointed to actually that location by the people outside, saying there is a victim on the room next door. So he remained oriented as a company officer when he went in through that window, understanding he was in a bedroom A, B, finding the door to the hallway, and knowing that to the right of that door, if he stayed on that wall, he was going to find the bedroom where he had already been told, which kept him from going straying into that bathroom on the left there, or the living room or kitchen area. He was oriented to where he was in the building at all times.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
So it worked out real well for him. The fact that they split up is a varsity move. And you see Pablo there, Pablo and his cadre of guys at Build Your Culture. They're a bunch of studs as well. Thanks for commenting, Pablo. Pablo always keeps it varsity as fuck. He did mention that earlier. Split searches are something that him and Sean Duffy teach a lot. And they're huge proponents of it. And if you ever hear them give their split search or oriented search or targeted search lecture, those guys are some of the best in the country.
So thanks
for joining us.
Some of the things that we talk about too, that everybody gets, a lot of people get caught on these labels. Oh, it's got to be oriented. It can't be anchored. But I think when you push and you do VES through these windows, and you're going to push into a next room or a hallway or across the hall, and you're not 100% sure if that ladder's there yet or it's en route to that location, I think if you got two guys in the room, I think you're doing an oriented split, and then you're going to also anchor on the outside of that. And then you're going to target and get yourself back in. So that's why I think it is such when we always talk, it's a varsity move, not to down the JV guys, because we were all JV guys at one time. But I think to make that varsity move like that, I think you have to be so in touch with your search techniques that when you hook that door, knowing he's going to push one over, or knowing what he's going to do. And like the guy Pablo said too, this happened because of all the training we did together. That is an outstanding statement. Absolutely an outstanding statement.
Absolutely. If you talk to these guys, in order for one of us to remain oriented, I can't be searching with you. I mean, if you break it down to its simplest form, without getting super geeky and nerdy in here, if I'm the officer and I'm in there with my fireman and we're splitting our search and we're gonna go past that door, my last known point is that door. So I'm gonna hold that door for him, and he's gonna go ahead and search the room and remain in voice contact with me or on a tick. But I'm maintaining orientation. I'm not jumping into a room and doing a 360 of the room with him and then hopping over to the next room and doing a 360 with him. Because 2 or 3 rooms down the hall, 2 or 3 360s later, neither one of us is oriented and we're both short of breath. One of us is responsible for getting us back out if shit gets bad. So one of us has to remain oriented.
I couldn't.
Otherwise, at that point, we're just searching the shit out of the house.
Yeah, you're just wiping all the soot off the walls at that point.
Fact. It's good stuff.
But Rob, when you said that you didn't want to get all geeky and nerdy about it, dude, we're doing a podcast on this stuff. It doesn't get any more nerdy than this. You know what I'm saying?
Also a fact.
Hey, so
go ahead.
Tom,
Go ahead, Herb.
Tom reset his computer. He's going to hop right back on here in a second. He's having a little delay, so he's going to hop back in, and we're going to get right back into it. But
very cool.
He definitely was hitting on some points that we didn't get a chance to talk to him about. But like Pablo said, the fact that he goes, we've trained on this every single time. And that goes right back to exactly what the guys are doing when we're teaching. We're giving you every possible scenario and every option available to keep training. And the fact that these guys probably trained on this a million times and it worked. So that reward was there. And you can't get better. You can't get anything better than that, because all that hard work paid off, and it paid off correctly because you did your job correctly.
Absolutely, Herb. If I can just add to that real quick, you did have up there. I believe John Sparrow commented earlier that this rescue was the result of hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of conscious suffering that Tom and his guys put himself through. Guys like these high-speed company officers and firemen throughout the country that expose themselves to the type of training and teaching, they're getting ready for that next play, and they're creating common language, common ground. And he said it earlier before he went off the air. They're creating trust within the company. They call a play and they follow the play through, and they know that every man's going to be responsible for his job. So when he went in that room, he talks about passing things that were irrelevant, even though he was noticing them. Okay, I don't need to pay attention to that because that's not varsity. I need to get to point A. And then from point A, he got to point B and ignored everything in between, although he did take it in and maintain situational awareness and orientation. I think Paulie Capel says it best, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So if your reps are shitty, you're going to create shitty permanent results. But if your reps are meaningful, realistic, and intentional, then you're going to create a result that's going to culminate in a successful rescue or in a successful outcome. Every rep matters, good or bad. So it's important. When we do training with our people, through NRC, we try to build that positive neural pathway. Again, getting geeky, Greg, talking about physiology. Every time that we put someone through a rep, a positive, realistic, intentional, well thought out, data-driven rep, we're creating a neural pathway for maybe a year down the road or 10 years down the road. When that person finds themselves in that situation, they're going to go through their hard drive and they're going to find a slide that matches the situation that resulted in a positive outcome, and they're going to hit it. And they're going to hit it hard without even thinking. And that only happens through reps and realistic training. And obviously, Tom and his members have done it, and the result speaks for itself. Very varsity move.
And I agree with you. I agree with doing correct, well thought out repetitions. Shorten it down to reps. I get it. But when people just throw the word rep out there, my big saying was train hard, but train right.
Correct.
So if you're doing it correctly, I don't care if you're watching videos or you're writing a notebook report, it's going into your head, but you still have to physically go out and do it. But you have to do it correctly. And then when you go at it, go all in, go hard. We do that. You know how it is through NRC. And probably even at our departments, we carry the same mentality. That's that's obviously where we started, was our departments first, but carrying it over and finding positive things that we can build on and gaps that we need to fill, and that's kind of where we're at here, and that's why.
We're speaking the same language, 100%. Tomato, tomato.
I'm bilingual now. Is that what you're telling me?
You are.
All right, Papa.
What is Shane? What is Shane saying? He wants to search every job every time. If you guys are not friends with Shane Bentley on Facebook or Instagram, you need to follow him or befriend him. So if you're on here and you're not Shane's friend, you need to follow this guy. These guys are awesome. Some of the most passionate guys in the fire service.
What does that I mean in VES though?
I have to talk to him about that. We haven't gotten that far yet in our relationship.
I don't even know what that means. I think it's a typo. I'm not sure.
All it is just someone trying to make a name for themselves. So that's all it is. You know what? Let me add another letter to it, and it'll be the new trending topic for the year.
It's so
all right, Tom, you back?
All right, I hope that's better.
Boom.
Maybe not.
Oh boy.
Is he sleeping or is?
All right, so what I miss?
Pretty much we were just talking shop, man. We were talking on a lot of the good points that you had, and we were talking about how the one thing a lot of the guys on the chats were saying, as well as myself, Greg, and Rob, was the fact that one of the things that you said that really stood out to us was the fact that you trained so much for something and you actually got to implement it, and it worked out the way you trained, and it just paid dividends.
He'll get here.
Marco?
Polo.
Yeah, one of the things, like, know you put in if it's ever going to be something you're going to have to use. Know that it's happened before because people write about it. They've been there before. They tell their stories, and it can happen anywhere, right? But you never know if it's going to happen on your watch. And so it's one of those things. It's like you're training for the Super Bowl, but you never know if you're ever going to get to play it.
Yeah, it definitely resonated with everyone that's listening right now, because every single person kept saying the exact same thing. Hey guys, we do apologize. Tom's having a little delay on his end.
I've never been this quiet for this long.
Let me read what Pablo put up here.
Hey Tom, you with us still or no? All right.
Well, let's keep rolling with it then. We
work on that, Herb.
I'm gonna do my best.
Thank you, man. I mean, listen. Going back to what he talked about earlier. Is he back there, Tom?
No.
He's okay. He's froze. All right. VES, and I think Greg mentioned it earlier too. So just you and I, Greg. So when you said earlier that VES is something that we don't do enough in the fire service, I think that's not even a South Florida thing, man. You talk to guys from all over the country, barring the Northeast and the OV guy and that actual position on a truck, like that's their job assignment. But you talk to companies or departments that don't have dedicated trucks or dedicated engines, or in our world, we have ambulances, the rescue truck. I mean, that's the perfect vessel for a VES in South Florida. Like those rescue guys, if you don't have an assigned truck company and you're not using them as medical, they should be coming off that box thinking VES. There is no safer form of search than a targeted, well thought out VES where you can identify a searchable space. Notice I'm not saying survivable. I hate that word. But that searchable space, and isolate yourself from the fire, give it a good search, and then move on to the next one. Rather than the classic, the way that we were trained, anchored to the wall and going in through the front door alpha side and getting your ass kicked throughout this entire hoarder house, past the fire, ahead of the fire, above the fire. And that takes a long time, and it puts our members at a lot more risk if we're being the safety police. What do you think?
Yeah, so let's be realistic about it. The medic trucks, or rescues as we call them down here, that's the young dudes. Those are the hard chargers, man. All they need is a little guidance. So if you've trained with them in like you said, the positive reps, I know my crew's probably chuckling now. Shout out to Station 5 because I threatened them to watch. But if you do a positive rep, like you said, and you've trained with each other, and that guy knows what that guy or girl knows what I'm thinking, and I know what they're going to do, the rescue's the way to go, man. I mean, because like you said, the only thing they're lacking is ladders. But that first due engine, think about it. They're not pulling their ladders. They're stretching lines. So you got ladders right out front. Truck guys should be bringing their ladders with them, and then the squad guys come in and save the day. Pretty much is how it works,
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm doing it right or anyone else is doing it wrong, but if you're the company officer, the position that you and I find ourselves in every third day, and you have that rescue or ambulance company attached to your firehouse, that's a play that you should have in your playbook.
I agree.
Where you show up, you identify your incident priorities, and you're like, we're in rescue mode. Those rescue guys need to hear no further. They should understand rescue mode means that they're going to grab a ladder and they're getting ready to VES, whether it's the first floor, second floor, in Tom's case, the third floor. And you have to put that trust in them where they're going to be okay.
Awesome. Hey, so your boy Shane Bentley there just put me in my place very nicely. I do appreciate that, Shane. He said, glad that I asked. No typo, Greg. Vent, enter, and an intense search. Shane, I owe you a beer for that one, my man. I do apologize for that. But thanks for going easy on
Tom
me.
is back.
Tom, are you back?
I'm back. I'm on a cell phone Wi-Fi now, so hopefully that's better. I don't know.
It actually is. You shaved 9 minutes off each one of your answers.
All right. Are we just going to start over? Can we just
Yeah. Hey Tom,
Right?
how's it going?
start over?
Perfect. If your kids are over 3 years old, ask them. They do really well with computers. He's back.
I know, right?
There you go. All right. So who's up? Herbie or Rob? Let's go. I've talked a couple.
It's so real quick. I threw this slide up here. Tom sent it over to me. Hey Tom, so can you kind of just walk through what we're looking at right here, kind of what you were thinking, and what this layout actually means, so when the guys are watching it.
Yeah, I put a couple things on there. You can see the ladder going up to the window we went in, and this is something that was pointed out to me after the fire. But I kind of put an asterisk in that first room where it says bunk beds. Mm-hmm. Well, Jonathan Cox pointed out to me after the fire. He said, "Hey, did you know there were bunk beds in there?" And I said, "No. I mean, I remember there being a bed, but not a bunk bed, right?" So there's one of those slides for me, for anybody else, for any future VES I do. It's like, I've talked about it before, searching under beds, above beds, but and even discussed bunk beds before, but just didn't recognize it. There was bunk beds in there, and obviously I would hope that any child would not go to the top bunk. It'd be pretty uncomfortable up there in the conditions we were in, but hey man, you never know. But it was interesting that that first bedroom had bunk beds in it, and luckily we didn't miss someone on the top bunk, but we did find the beds in there. And then once we moved into the hallway, you can follow that arrow. That's kind of our path through the apartment and into the other room. I went into the second bedroom, found the bed, searched that, and then I was working around the bed through the room, and that's the victim.
So he went around obviously into that bedroom, and that's where he found the Vic. Tom, if you can hear me, did you guys come through the bunk beds, or did you go, or were they off to one side or the other? I think he's out again.
Yeah, I think so.
Colorado Wi-Fi. All right. So, anyways, to add to the bunk bed thing, we did some search training years ago, maybe 12 years ago, something like that. And guys were going in the room, and we were doing the room was laid out. And there was 2 beds in it. It was a kids' room, and it was all training. A couple of the instructors took the second bed and put it up on top as a bunk bed. All of those guys knew that bedroom. They went in there. They searched the one bed. They went around. They found a dresser, moved themselves around, and ended up leaving the room. Never checked the top bunk bed. But one of the old timers that was there said, "Hey man, I've searched a handful of rooms, and I talked to a couple other guys about it too that definitely up north to do some searching." And they said 9 times out of 10 they're gonna smell like the smoke, they're gonna feel the heat, and they're gonna jump down. And where do they head? They head towards a window or a door. Doesn't mean you don't have to check it, but your percentage goes down, which kind of made sense to me. But I'd like to see what those numbers are today, just seeing that he brought that up.
Yeah, I have my guys whenever I teach search, or I'm part of a teaching cadre that is covering search. Systems create success. I'm a big fan of systems. Anytime we come across a bed in a search where you're in zero visibility or little visibility, we're gonna make sure that we feel with our hand, not our tool, 4 sides of the bed. If there's any sheets or pillows or anything, they're gonna get moved and felt with our hands. We're gonna check under the bed, and we have a thing that we call monkey arms. And monkey arms is basically once you identify the bed, your next move is gonna be to wail your arms over your head, looking for contact with an upper bed or bed post or a bunk bed. So you're gonna come off the bed that you're searching. You're gonna wave your arms. You can picture how monkeys run, and actually find the location of an upper bed, for lack of better terms. The numbers are actually in his favor. You guys know I'm a data-driven nerd when it comes to like survivability and RIT stuff. So I spent some time after talking to Tom looking at the firefighter rescue survey, and the firefighter rescue survey is basically a big collection of about 1,600 rescues and grabs throughout the country, turned in by firefighters that were at the actual scene and made the grabs. And Tom's rescue matched the data. I mean, almost to a T. The majority of the numbers found the victims on the floor, or on the ground. I'm sorry. They found them in bedrooms. That's where Tom found his victim. Adjacent to the fire room, so not in the fire room. That was also true. The number one method used to find the victims was a split search nationwide out of 1,600 rescues. So he actually conducted the perfect search to find that victim, which they split, not anchored search. If that search is oriented, it increases the percentages higher, because that's the number 2 most common form of victim rescue this year out of 1,600 grabs or so. And lastly, the technique that he used, the VES, it's actually number 3 on the list. But again, it worked out in his favor. He identified it and jumped in and did it, and the data and the numbers said that was awesome. And lastly, the way he brought the victim out via a ladder, that's the number 2 way. The actual survey, the firefighter rescue survey, says that you're going to bring victims out when you do find them. So the numbers are tracking. Everything he did that night actually met the numbers and the data being collected nationwide. So the people listening that are training to that, my advice to you is to train to the highest common denominator. And instead of focusing on crazy shit, practice the basics until they look advanced. And make sure you set your searches on bunk beds or in bedrooms. Find your victims on the floor. Split your searches, remain oriented, and throw ladders, and practice getting victims out windows on ladders. Because according to the data, that's exactly what's going to happen. And Tom is living proof.
Well, and like he said too, his crew got split, and they had some guys coming up the stairs, other guys throwing ladders. And when they came up the stairs, they were shut off by fire because they, if I'm not mistaken, they were in front of the hose line. Not that the guys were slow, but they might have, who knows what kind of obstacles they had to go through. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, you there?
Excellent.
I'm here. You guys got me?
Gotcha.
Yeah, we got you.
My
You're on
delay
a
again.
yeah, you're on a slow delay, but we'll work with it.
Yo, none of this stuff happened pre-show. Is that crazy?
Well, hang on just a sec.
I think
So,
Thank you, Valerie.
It's firefighterrescuesurvey.com to answer David's question where the survey is found. And if you guys don't go and just actually read through them, you're doing yourself a disservice. You got all the time in the world while you're sitting at the station playing on your cell phone, looking on Facebook and everything. Invest in yourself and spend 15 minutes, go through some of it, read, and there's a lot to be learned from those surveys. And it looks like we just lost Tom again.
Hey, I don't know.
All right.
I don't know what station you're at, Herbie, but we don't have a lot of time to sit around and hang out. Oh, that's right. You're in the EOC. Forgot
Yeah,
about
that's right.
bro.
That's right now. Hey, so I'm gonna do a little public disclaimer right now. We're gonna do a GoFundMe for Captain Tom Johnson and get him some adequate Wi-Fi up there in Colorado.
Maybe it's a snowstorm, dude. We don't know. We don't have snow down here. Rob
But
looks like he's in the snow.
It is cold in here, boys. This sign is keeping me warm. Where's the sign at?
it's while Tom's over here getting his stuff squared away, myself, Greg, Rob, we want to take a moment and just tell you guys how thankful you guys are for making this podcast what it is. This is way above what we ever thought it was going to be. We thought we were just going to be sitting around having a few drinks, talking shop, and literally our phones are going off every week. Hey, when's the next podcast? When's the next podcast? If there's stuff you guys want us to hit on or certain guests you want us to bring on, send us an email, info@nationalrescueconsultants.com, or reach out to any of us on social media, and we'll do our best to get the person on and talk about it. Shane Bentley, I was actually talking to him a couple days ago, talking about bringing him on and talking about just doing our due diligence in the fire service of leaving it better than we found it. And he's one of those guys that literally is leaving it better than he found it. So stuff like that, whatever you guys want us to touch on, that's what we're here for.
Is he coming back on?
I don't know, that counter's going real slow right now.
Bro, is he on dial-up right now, or what's going on there?
Dude, he's on like AOL
so-
3.0.
Hey, so I do want to add something too. When we're talking about VES and we're talking about the VES culture, and we're talking about the search culture, and we're talking about search and rescue and all that, I think it's highly important to know how your guys, your crews, your adjacent stations, how aggressive they are, how they're going to search. So when you go in and do VES, that you're hitting every room, you're hitting every space, and you're not doubling up in 2 rooms and missing other rooms because there's too much smoke. Like they were saying, like they had some heavy smoke coming out of the Bravo and the Delta side and all that. But if you listen to their podcast, it was like 45 minutes or so. They were basically saying, hey man, that's the worst room. That's the room we're going in. Like that's, like you said, that's varsity, Rob, to steal one of your words. That's a good move, and that's the way it should be.
Absolutely, varsity move. And you know what? It comes down to systems, because systems equal success. And I know I keep saying that, but I'm just going to go ahead and reference and go from the hip. About 2 shifts ago, I was listening to a fire in a neighboring city. One of our firehouses went. So I turned the radio over to attack channel, started listening to the fire. And right off the bat, it was obvious that they have systems in place and expectations were understood by all the companies arriving on scene. Because if I tell you that this exact fire didn't go amazing on the radio, remember the radio and on scene is different, but talking to the guys on scene, it sounded pretty legit. Every arriving crew had an assignment prior to getting there. The crews that didn't have an assignment took a search assignment. They VES'd. Right immediately after the VES, I'm thinking in my mind, they're gonna need a secondary means of egress. Immediately after this, one crew said they're VESing, another crew assumed ladders and started throwing ladders to the delta side of the building, adjacent to where the crews were VESing, ahead of the hose line. When the hose line got there, the water supply was already in place, and it went step by step. And that actual system only happens when you have those reps put in, when you train together, when you create that common language, that common ground, and trust amongst the companies. And it's a fun thing to listen to when you're in a position as a battalion chief or a chief officer or somebody who's running command for a fire, and you have those crews coming in and taking that approach and taking that incentive and grabbing the bull by the horns and filling the gaps, not just the benchmarks, but filling the operational gaps that they're identifying based on experience. Dude, it's a beautiful thing to watch and listen to. I actually enjoyed listening to the fire to the point where, not that night, because they stay on the air till like 1 a.m. and I had to go to bed. But the following day, on my drive home, I texted and reached out to the incident commander and gave him kudos. And I was like, dude, you sounded amazing on the radio. And please tell me you guys train on this, because every company officer that showed up at that fire, and it sounded like a good working fire, was on point and one step ahead of you on the radio. And he appreciated it. He did tell me that from day one, that's the way they train. And they kept it simple, but they made the basic sounds advanced on the air, and it shows. And we should all be operating at that level.
I do appreciate the positive output that you put out, but mine is not that positive. I just heard from a neighboring.
Hey, Tommy, Doc.
So now I'm trying the cell phone. I don't know.
It actually looks better.
And he sounds better too.
Cell
Hey,
phone
you sound good. You look
cell
good.
phone working better?
Yep.
Tom, that
I hope it works better.
that cell phone makes you just added 10 pounds of muscle.
That's the company phone.
Yeah, it's company phone, fit to fight fire. All right, let me put on my black T-shirt, look jacked, and now I'll go back on. All right.
God. All right.
All right, let's finish the search already. We've been searching
let's
this room
finish
for an hour.
this nonsense.
Right. Okay.
Is it any better? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, no. You
Awesome.
you literally sound perfect.
And you're like,
All right.
there's no 2-minute delay. It's perfect.
All right, perfect. Let's get going. Let's start this thing.
Hey, hold on before we start, Herbie. Send some dollars to his cricket so he can keep his.
Oh man, there are a few of my close friends that are probably making fun of me right now because they know, cheap ass computer, cheap ass everything. Guess it's time to upgrade, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, so you missed out. I actually just started a GoFundMe for you to get you a decent internet service.
That's a touchy subject. I don't know about starting any GoFundMes anymore, so I don't know.
Yeah, you can't do any GoFundMes anymore.
We'll do it on the down low.
Well, so when you left, we actually got the picture up. We talked about it amongst us. You were telling us about the bunk beds. So if you just kind of want to pick up or touch on whatever you want to touch on, it's we'll run it from there.
Yeah. Did you get any of it? Did I tell you how we pretty much missed it and found out after the fire that there were bunk beds? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a good learning experience. I mean, I talk about all these slides that popped into my head while I was arriving at the fire and then actually going in and doing the search. And now I've got another slide of, it's one of those things. It's like, I missed a bunk bed once, I won't miss it again. That happens. And so hopefully somebody else can take from that. It's like, hey, always search above, look for those kind of either the headrail or, foot rail, whatever, find it, and then see if there's posts going up that hold up. Look for that ladder maybe going up to the top of the bunk. But it's just just one of those learning experiences. But as I said before, you follow that arrow and you get into that second room. That's where we found the victim. John and I lifted her up to the window. We took her out the ladder, and then we went back in and searched the rest of the apartment. And that's when it was, that's when we knew we were getting close to the fire, because that's where we had really high heat. And we were looking for a door to isolate. And as it turns out, that door would have been that hallway door. But we were still able to get the search completed. And eventually, after we did that primary search, we exited the same window we came in. But one thing about that is we probably did that primary search like 3 times over. I remember having these distinct conversations with Jonathan in there. Like, we cannot miss anybody on this primary search. We already found one person, but we can't miss anybody else. And so we were very thorough, to the point where we spent, a good amount of time in there to where we were on VibraAlert when we came out. It was that important to be in there because we knew the layout already, and you couldn't see that if we had come out earlier just because we were low on air, it would have taken 10 minutes for another crew to get oriented to the space, and they'd be searching a lot of the same areas we did. That we just needed to get it done and make sure that primary search was complete and there was no other victims.
Just to add to that, something you said in there, do you think your VibraAlert was going off because your new guy had to tell you to calm your breathing down, or how did that work?
It would have got off a lot sooner if hadn't he told me, right?
Right.
Oh, that was one of the best stories of the entire thing, I think. I mean,
That is awesome.
Just being at the window, the 3 of us sitting there, and he says that, and one guy thinks it's to him. And, instinctively, a lot of people, they don't want to be told to slow your breathing down, right? Nobody wants to be the excited guy. But, the fact of the matter is, we were doing a lot of work. And, lifting her up, that was a very taxing thing. So as much as I wanted to slow my breathing down, it was kind of tough at that moment, but he did remind me when we were at the sill, it was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, slow it down.
That's
what a great thing. I'm just glad it happened. I mean, that's one of those things that in the moment, I'll never forget that moment for the rest of my career.
Yeah,
to be honest.
that's money. What a great moment, man. And that's and I don't know the full backstory, but one of the guys that you trained that came up. So it's kind of like, Grasshopper telling the mentor, "Hey man, calm down for a second." You know what I mean? Take a deep breath. I get it.
Yeah, man. And I gotta tell a little bit about this guy. This is a guy who went through our academy, and we have some awards for whether it's academic or physical or just a basic instructor's choice. This guy swept the board. Okay, so wow. He went through the academy and just put his head down and did his thing. He initially went to a station where John was at, and so John Spera spent a lot of time with him as a probationary firefighter. And this whole thing of going to firemanship with us, that's a great story too, because it was probably 5 or 6 days before we were scheduled to go out to Portland, and we had our cadre all figured out. And he was either working a trade or overtime at my station, which was a double company house. So we were out training together. It was maybe the 2nd or 3rd time we worked together, and we were doing some evolutions and getting after it and training hard. And I just said, "Hey, what are you doing next week?" And he goes, "I don't know. I got a Kelly day, so I got some time off. Hey, you want to come to Portland? I'll pay for your flight. You can be in our class." And so that's kind of how it happened. He cleared the schedule and he said, "I got nothing going on." So we paid for his flight out there, and he ended up participating in this 24-hour class with us, which, was an amazing experience for all of us anyways. But to see him out there, this is the guy that doesn't ever want to be left out. If somebody's training or somebody's doing something fire related, he's going to be the guy that is going to say, "Hey, don't leave me out. Tell me what you're doing. I'm going to be right there with you guys." And I mean, he crushed it, man. I mean, to be part of a cadre that goes for 24 hours and you're in your gear for 20 hours of it and you're training the entire time, I mean, we had to fight to keep up with him sometimes.
I like that too, man. That's the epitome of what we do. You know what I mean?
Well, I think somebody was talking about legacy, right? When you guys talking about legacy in the fire service a little earlier when I was, had my dial up going?
Yeah. No, yeah, we were talking about the legacy.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing. If I think of legacy, one of the things I think is take people with you, and that's what I and John and all of us, 55 Fires, we've always tried to. Anytime we do something, we just try to take people with us. And I looked at that as a great opportunity to take a guy who's super invested in the job, who may not have the opportunity to go to conferences. And it's like, okay, well, if we can provide the vehicle for him to get an experience that he'll never forget. And ultimately, I think he would say too, that help prepare him for this call and many more to come. That's what it's all about, right?
Man, what an investment on your part. Like, you invested to get that guy out there. And he he obviously did not come up short of your expectations. And then you're standing across the windowsill from this guy, and he's telling you exactly what you told him back in the day. You know what I mean?
Right?
I just hate people like that.
I know, right? Yeah, you hate them so much, you got to surround yourself with them every day, right?
I know. It's perfect. That's an awesome story. I heard that today, man, and I was like, that is good shit. That is exactly why we do it.
That's actually very cool. A lot of people think that the only way you're going to do good in the fire service is if you find yourself a mentor. But in reality, if you do good, a mentor will find you. And Tom just mentioned that he's talking about, he saw this kid was high speed. He identified this kid was like ready to go, all ate up with the job, and he brought him along for the ride. Said, hey, let's go to firemanship. And he invested in him, and he got his ROI, his return on investment was immediate almost. And what a great experience for Tom, but what a great experience for that kid to be able to, put into play real time, game time, all the time that Tom and his cadre have put into him. So that had to be as rewarding for him as it was for Tom.
Yeah, he was cool. He's such a humble man that, he came to me after the call, and it was almost like I think we both felt mutual respect for each other. I couldn't have chose anybody else to be in there with. I think he would feel the same way, so it's just one of those things. And you don't get to that point with any other individual unless you've learned to trust them in training, unless I saw him bury himself in trainings, and then for 24 hours straight, I knew this is the guy that I wanted to be in the foxhole with. That's who I want to be with. And there's many guys I know of that I would do the same with. He was one of them.
I have a quick follow up on that, and I apologize for calling him a kid. That's a bad habit. He's a man and a grown man.
He's younger than us. All right. It's good for him.
Fire service years, not life years. Question, Tom. Did your performance inside that evening change, good, better, bad, or indifferent, because of who you were with? The fact that you had trained with this person, the fact that you trusted him, the fact that you knew that this is the guy you wanted to be in the trenches with, versus someone who's just floating through the firehouse, or someone who's not, into the job or on the job. Would that have affected your comfort or your trust, in zero visibility, looking for a victim, going past that door, and splitting your search?
Oh, most definitely. That's one thing that I recall going through that fire and, going in the window, quick little conversation with him of what our plan was. But I didn't really worry about him one bit. I was able to focus on my job. I'm sure he was focusing on his. I can't really tell you what was going through his head, because I don't know if he'd been in that situation before with those conditions. I had a few times before. That'd be a question for him. But for me, if I had a new firefighter in there, or a firefighter that I hadn't trained with, then I'm worried about them, right? As a company officer, for sure, I'm telling a guy to go in there. I've got to make sure that he doesn't get himself into a situation that he shouldn't get into, right? I'm the one with experience, and so I've got to be that guy. Now, in this particular case, man, it goes back to the trust again. It's huge, and I didn't think twice about what he was doing. I knew he was doing what he needed to do. He had goals when he went in the window. He knew what type of search we were doing. He knew there were people inside. He knew we had a job. You know, that's the big part of it, and I just didn't have to worry about it. So it definitely changed my method of operation going in. You know, I was able to focus more on the hands-on search and move quicker through the rooms rather than constantly having to check in with him and see where he's at.
And I totally understand where you're coming from. The reason I ask that question is I've been there myself in both scenarios where I've been with someone backseat who maybe wasn't as high speed or caught up as the next guy. And my tactics changed because I had to baby him more or watch out for him more or manage risk for him more. You know, maybe risk management is a better word. I had to manage their risk more because I wasn't confident that they knew what they were getting into. And you know, these are situations that are, you know, low frequency and high risk. And it's my job as a company officer, just as yours and Greg's, to make sure that these guys, you know, get home in one piece in the morning. But then I've also had the same different situation, and I never dropped names on here, but with one of my firemen, Frankie Herrera, and where we couldn't find the fire, and I wasn't really sure where I was, and I was comfortable enough to leave him and take off on my own, knowing that he'd be okay on his own and handle his space and get back to him when we meet somewhere. And either he's going to find it or I'm going to find it. We had zero visibility, but I had no problem leaving him because I had built that trust he talked about, because we put in the reps, we put in the hours in gear, and I knew what he was capable of. So I can totally I feel you on that one, brother. And you know, kudos to you again for, you know, investing and for getting your return on investment. That's awesome, man.
Well,
yeah, I think we checked in with each other maybe twice before the victim. You know, so we entered the structure, and I remember saying, "Hey, you go this way, I'll go that way." We met at the door to go into the hallway, and then we took a right, and we went into the other bedroom, and that was really it. It's like we met at the door. I said, "Okay, I'm going out. I'm gonna find the other bedroom," and I found it right away. And then I said, "I'm going in this other bedroom," and that was really the only conversation we had inside up until finding the victim. You know,
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. What do you got, Greg?
Now, so going back to the backseat intuition, I really like that statement, and I'm probably going to beat it up a little bit. And before your Wi-Fi was just a little spotty, but I want to hit it again because I feel that is so important, and especially what you're talking about right now with him. The segue into that is that backseat. So basically, this encompasses all three of our answers for the most part. So the backseat intuition, if you can't trust that guy or person that's back there, then you have to baby him, just like Rob said. And I've been in that. I probably have been the babied guy when I was coming up, and then now I get to the point too with brand new guys that are coming on with our job. So I do think teaching them, or at least enlightening them on things we got to do, getting them so it's not a freelance. When I split, if you go to the Bravo and I go to the Delta, it's not a freelance. I'm teaching you to get it. I'm teaching you to understand what we're looking at, what we're doing, and when you see the conditions, even if it's a mediocre light smoke, and you split them then. When they do come on that big fire, like you went on, like you said a few words to this guy, and you guys were on the same page all the way through and saving that lady's life. I mean, to me, that is what it's all about. That is the exclamation point, the mic drop, whatever you want to call it. That is it right there. But to add to that, it doesn't end there. Like the next day, the next shift, it's like, oh, we got the grab. We're going to kick back, turn our hats backwards, and just hang out. No, you push harder, because the next time you know what to do. You want to pass that on. You want to make that viral. You want to spread that to everybody, in my opinion. So how do you bounce back from that, Tom? Or did you? Are you still, how does it work?
Well, I mean, let's talk about just getting back to the station that night. I mean, how much adrenaline was going on at that fire, that carries you through, say an hour to an hour and a half of intense work. I can remember getting back to the station, shower and all that stuff, right? I it was 5 a.m. I had 2 hard cups of coffee. This is like strong stuff. And then I went right to bed after the coffee. So that's how tired I was. So, going into the next day, I mean, it's like what you talk about, Greg. Everything you train for has now just been confirmed. It is going to happen. It did happen. It's going to happen again, probably. And so really for me, now it's just almost easier, staying motivated and getting after it, because it's well, I know it's going to happen now. I know it's going to happen. And are there things I could do better? Yeah. I mean, I look at that, I replay that call all the time. There's some things that I could do better. And so that's what motivates me to keep getting after it,
Yeah, I mean, that solidifies everything that we all do. That just solidifies, like, listen, this works. I have data. I created data to make this works. I know we talked about that this is kind of under investigation and everything, but are we as the public, are we ever going to be able to, like, kind of hear all the audio through and through and kind of how things went down, or do you think that's going to be wrapped up for a while?
I think so. One thing that the news stations out here have done a couple features on the victim we rescued, so I know I can freely share that. What this mother did is she was in the apartment with her children and I presume her husband, but he jumped out first. So he jumped out first, and she threw the kids to him. She dropped the kids down to him, and then she went down. So, hearing that, a few days later, that's tough to hear. You almost think, man, I was better off not knowing. I was better off not knowing. It helped me kind of just, I guess, compartmentalize the rescue and the job from the human aspect of it. But, in reality, that's someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's mom, they now lost. But I mean, you want to talk about heroism, right? Mother's love, it will do stuff like that, right? So, that's really the story behind her is, I wish we would have got there sooner, to be honest.
You solidified her intentions. You know what I mean? She did everything she could do, and then you guys scooped her up, man. That's how it's supposed to go. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. That is like I said, man, I applaud you guys. I wanted to if it was up to me, when you guys were getting off shift, I would have had you on the podcast that morning, but I know that was probably a little too early. So I'm glad that it's still fresh, and I hope your guys are listening, man. Kudos to your entire crew, man. Like, a lot can be learned from that. A lot. Even the new guy that told you, hey, calm your breathing down, and I actually want to. I really want to meet the dude that karate kicked the ladder off. You know what I mean? That's that's badass. I definitely. That guy is a legend. I got to buy him a beer too. So I owe Bentley a beer, and I owe this guy a beer. So
that'll be one of those fire stories when you're 30 years from now, and you're like, man, you know what? I heard a story of a guy who just karate kicked the ladder. You're gonna be like, man, get the hell out of here. That didn't happen. It's going to be like, no, hold on. Let me call Tom real quick.
Yeah.
We'll all be in nursing homes, and we'll put it on speakerphone, and he'll just be telling the story, and that's it. But
3 months from now, it'll be on YouTube, him just karate kicking and blowing his knee out.
I don't even care if it's true or not.
Hey, Tom, so I know you touched on it a tad bit about how you drank 2 cups of strong coffee. But let the guys know, because there are some guys that are listening right now that don't get the runs, that aren't getting the serious calls that we all want to run. What was the overall feel of your firehouse and you being in charge? Like, what were some of the things that you did to make sure that the guys were okay and the morale of the station was as good as it could be due to the situation?
Well, this crew and this whole night was very unique in that, this isn't my normal house, right? So I'm normally on a different ladder company, and middle of the shift, I got moved up to this station. So that's kind of the other part to the story is I got moved up to this station in the middle of the shift. And this isn't my normal crew. None of these guys I work with on a daily basis. And I roved into a double company house, so none of these guys. Now, I had spent a few of the recent months with them just on some training, but this isn't, again, it's when it's not your normal crew, it can be tough, right? So
Yeah.
that's where the training becomes so big again. Like this, I honestly think, we got lucky. Like the north end of the city got lucky that night with the fact that we had trained together and that this crew was put together, because we were, at least two of us, Jonathan and I, we aren't stationed there. Jack got moved to the truck. He's not normally on the truck. So when I say, like, I saw kind of Rob, you kind of looked the other way when I said lucky. When I say lucky, I mean like it just, the citizens, I feel, lucked out that we had all worked together and trained together before. And so that when we got on this fire, we trusted each other. That was a big part of it, because had it just been kind of anybody that I hadn't even worked with before, guys that I barely knew, this whole thing changes. We talked about it before. The outcome definitely is different.
You reading that, Herb?
No, yeah, I was reading that. So totally agree with that, and with the fact that you harped on, you trained with them and everything, but let the guys know what was the overall, when you guys got back to the station, how was that for the crew? Was there, with the big push in the fire service right now, everything is, hey, let's talk about our feelings and everything. Was there any of that? Was there, hey, high fives, like, and not trying to downplay anything at all, but everybody handles things different ways, and you being a company officer, you got to kind of adapt to that, and you got to kind of you have to cater to everybody. So was there anything that you had to do that was maybe that you weren't prepared for outside of that call going back into the firehouse?
Not in this case, because most of the crew at this firehouse, they're all vets. They're veterans, and so they've probably seen a lot more than I have. It's one of those things. It's like, how do you make sure your guys are okay? And in this particular case, I know these guys personally, so over the next day or two, reached out to them and saw, checked in, see how you guys are doing. Even that night, I'm really good at just, when guys perform, to that such a high level, and they do great things like that they train to do, those are the times to recognize them. I think what those guys needed more that night, which what I gave them, was the recognition of like, hey, you guys kicked ass, And I remember telling DJ, who was at the top of the ladder, because I didn't really know it was him until we came back down out of the search, but I was like, was that you at the top of the ladder? And I remember watching him take the victim down. It didn't look easy, it looked like a very hard task. And the last thing you want to do is drop a victim off a ladder, right? So that's one of those things in life, they're one of those instances where you cannot fail, right? Because everything goes to waste then, right? Oh yeah, so we found a victim, we got her out. Oh, then the fire department dropped her from like third-story ladder. That's not good, right? So through all that pressure, these guys performed, they killed it. And that was my biggest thing over the next like day or two, is just making sure, send them a group text of just proud to be part of that crew that night. You guys made a difference there, and couldn't imagine doing it with anybody else. I think really one thing that helped a few guys around there was actually doing our podcast that we just put out. Be able to talk through the call. We edited it down, but at the same time, we had a lot of conversation for a few hours that day, talking about it and just rehashing it. And I think that was really probably one of the most beneficial things that we did.
And if the guys are out there listening and you haven't listened to it, it is a phenomenal podcast to go listen to because they talk through every single step of that call. And you guys are listening to what we're talking about. It literally paints the picture perfectly. And hats off to you guys because you guys did one hell of a job painting that picture of every single thing that happened on that call. Like you made it seem like we were right there. Hats off to you. Could not say anything less about it. It was well done.
I realistically think that you guys could have talked 3 hours about that. I mean, you could have dissected everything. I was kind of bummed that it was 45 minutes, but I mean, within that 45 minutes, I mean, if you're taking notes, you'd have had to pause it and write notes down. I mean, it was good.
100%.
Yeah, and I all your crew too. I mean, like those guys, just the humility those guys had. They were just kind of like, yeah, I can't remember who it was, Jonathan or somebody was like, yeah, I really didn't do anything. I was kind of just holding the ladder. It was just
that's
there.
the guy that did. That's the guy that did
Yeah.
some of the most work on the fire ground. You know, it's just
Legit.
Yeah,
man.
but you're right.
But,
I mean, that's how we keep training, right? You know, find the most humble guys because we talk about it. There's two types of firefighters: those that are humble and those that are about to be. You know, and the quicker you humble yourself and know that you don't know everything and that you could be better, like you can always get better every day, the quicker you're going to get better.
It's
100%.
funny. It's funny that he was that way because when he was like, "Yeah, I was on the ladder. I took her down. I moved her over to the other crease of my arm because I'm like, dude, that guy, like that was the exclamation point in that call. You know, because like you said, if he would have dropped or he had no plan or just whatever, it would have been like, well, all that other stuff that went good on the inside was bad now. You know, so he definitely held it together, and I did appreciate his attitude about it.
Dude, you know what's funny? That we all watched the podcast or listened to it, and we all took the same thing. That guy, I wish I could have talked to him during the podcast because I was like, dude, every good fireman that puts in the time wants to be in the arena, right? We all know that because every one of us wants to be there. We don't want anyone's shit to burn, but if it does, I want to be the guy there. And so I felt him when he told me that he threw the ladder and the other guy went up and that he was the most useless guy on the fire scene. But the guys that are on RIT feel that way often. You get assigned RIT or Rick, you're like, shit, you know, RIT or Rick, what am I doing? But shit, that should be the most important job to you at that moment because you're the most important person on that fire scene. The guy that's healing the hose line, that third or fourth guy on the hose line, making sure that the nozzle man and the backup guy get to the fire. That heel is the most important guy on that hose line. He's the motor. Without him, you're not going to get to point A, to point B, to point C. That guy healing the ladder, same thing. And the further you are from the nozzle, it's been said a bunch of times, the further you are from the nozzle, the more important you are to the scene. You hear that often. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. I think it's something written for chief officers. But the further you are from that nozzle, the more important you are to the success of the fire scene. And it's funny because when he was talking about that, I was laughing, listening to the podcast and thinking, man, this guy is so humble because he is such an important part of this scene. And he did some high-speed varsity level shit.
I agree.
Yeah, he wanted to go up that ladder. You know, he wanted to go up that ladder. And then when he wasn't the guy to go up, I mean, he's the one who then made it through those burning stairs again up to the third floor, was stopped by a wall of fire, no hose line still in place, and tried to get through that fire. And then the hose line opened up. And, you know, then everybody knows what happens when the hose line opens up and you're in close quarters. So, but, you know, he audibled, you know, and that's probably the biggest thing that I took from that fire when you guys wanted to talk about backseat intuition. There's the backseat guy that went from outside rescues to throwing a ladder to I was going to be ES, now I'm not, and I'm going up a ladder as his officer, and he just makes the decision, well, I got to get interior.
Well, not to mention those guys that until you listen to the podcast, those guys helped catch the hydrant. Yep. Right? Didn't they stretch a line to help the engine company?
Well, that was part of the second arriving engine company, you know. So what you're talking about is a double company house that we responded together. So, you know, one of the guys, DJ, he was on the engine that night. So yeah, he was going everywhere, you know, He's the one who moved the second ladder over to take the victim out, but the initial ladder that we threw was thrown by my backseater, Jack Thompson, and then of course Jonathan went up the ladder, and that's where he was talking about. I wish I was the one going up, But then Jack made the decision standing there. Well, I could just stand here on the outside, or I could go make a difference on the inside and search on the inside. And he ended up getting part of the third floor searched and all the second floor searched.
Yeah, and that's not freelancing, man. That's because they get it. They know what needs to be done.
It's getting the
Sounds
job
pretty
done.
useless.
Absolutely.
Sounds pretty useless to me.
All right, Roberto. Didn't you have something?
No, I'm going to move on. I want to talk about other aspects of this. In the book Mindset, I'm going to go ahead and plug your book again. In the book Mindset, you guys break things down to purpose, belief, mindset, responsibility, and all those combined affect your performance, whether it's stretching, advancing, searching, doing truck work, engine work. Can you tell us, or the people listening, how all these attributes you talk about in your book came together when you were figuratively tapped on the shoulder that night, and you and your crew were able to put it all together and do what had to be done?
Yeah, if you go through our book, and I don't actually have one in front of me, but most of the terms you mention are the titles to chapters, right? And
Correct.
Before I can even myself as a firefighter can show up that night and do what needs to be done, I've got to have my purpose established. Whether it's my purpose at home as a father or my purpose at work as a firefighter, right? I've got to know what I'm there to do and why I'm there to do it. And so with the purpose, it builds on everything else, right? Purpose builds that belief. The belief is that we need to have our best day on their worst day, right? And it doesn't happen just because we say we want it to happen. It happens because we train and we work to make it happen. Okay. So with that belief, knowing that, I'd want myself rescuing me. Like if
Right.
I can say that and believe in that, then I'm doing what I need to do on the front end, right? I've taken that purpose, I've created this belief, and then it's that mindset, right? It's that mindset of, I'm okay to fail if I'm pushing the envelope, but I shouldn't have any reason to fail. I should never fail on the fireground because of lack of preparation. And so that mindset is the biggest thing that kind of powers everything, right? They always say that like when you're about to quit, the mind says you're going to quit, but your body's really capable of like 7 times more output.
Yep.
So it's really overcoming all those times you want to quit and building that mental toughness, which forms that mindset we talk about. And really it comes down to getting to that last chapter in our book, right? It's that training to win. Because if you're just going out and training, just going through the motions, somebody brought it up earlier. I think it was you, Rob. You talked about mastering the basics till they become advanced.
Yeah.
I mean, mastering the basics means that it's going to be very monotonous at times. It's going to feel like you're doing the same thing every day. But guess what? When I played baseball growing up into college, I played catch every single day, right?
Yep.
I threw bullpens twice a week. Hitters are hitting every single day, right? That's the way the sports world works. And we are tactical athletes. It works the same way in firefighting. If you don't throw a ladder for 3 weeks, you're going to be rusty.
Yep.
If you never do any training in your gear, when you get on the fire ground, that gear is going to be a problem for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you never breathe down a bottle and work hard, work for that 20 plus minutes on a fire, then you're going to last 5 minutes. Because if you train for 5 minutes and then quit, you're going to last that much on the fire ground. So it's that training to win, and so we've built on all that. I built on all that my entire career. And when I train to win. And, I think I'm not going to be the one to say whether I won that night or not, but, I was ready. And that's all I could really do. I did as much preparation as I could to be ready for something like that.
That's a great
All right.
answer.
I'm gonna add something a little geeky. Hopefully, there's not a lot of people listening. But so the last couple days, I've been I always do a bunch of Christmas lights around my house. I know this is kind of off the topic for a second, but I threw a ladder probably 25 times, and probably, I don't want to give you guys too much credit, but let's call it 10 times. I was like, all right, how did these clowns out in Colorado throw this ladder for this VES? So I'm slinging ladders like I'm rescuing people when I'm throwing Christmas lights here, thinking about what you guys did and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, to me, this is practice. You know what I mean? I'm throwing ladders, I'm hanging lights, I'm being kind of nerdy in the neighborhood, but I'm also practicing for my job too. And I'm throwing one of those heavy ass fiberglass ladders, bruise on your shoulder times 2 days. So I want to give you so some of the Christmas lights in my neighborhood, Tom, are dedicated to you and your crew. He hung up.
Oh, did we
on
lose
us.
him?
I guess he doesn't like Christmas. Tom
You,
doesn't like Christmas, bro.
you know
He was
what?
doing so good.
My bad, dude.
Tom is the Grinch of Christmas, right there. Done.
Tom the Grinch Johnson.
No, so
Listen,
it's
Go
I,
ahead.
I know we had some hiccups with his audio and everything, but the humbleness of him and listening to the podcast of his crew and the three of us have talked about it. Just the humbleness of those guys being in the big arena, and they all stepped up to the plate that day. That's huge. And that's all that we could ask for as the three of us being company officers. That's all you can ask for from your guys. And when your guys step up to the arena, when it comes time to do the big job and everyone performs, as a company officer, that makes you step back and be like, man, you know what? I'm doing something right. And the reality is we don't get to do that all the time. None of us are running fires like we want to, none of that. But the moment that we get to see our crew do what we've trained on for so often, and they step up to the plate, as company officers, we have to step back and be like, man, you know what? That's amazing. Like, that's what everything that we've done, poured heart and soul into, and don't take it as a company officer, because the four of us sitting on the screen right now, we've learned more from our guys than they've probably learned from us. And that's the reality of it.
100%.
You back with us, Tom, or what?
I am, yeah. It was a good time to cut out for a second because I needed to get a charger for my phone. More problems.
Hey,
I'm good now.
Hey, listen, we thought you had to call your little phone card, upload your minutes in there. Like, we didn't know what was happening.
That should be my care
we're taking
package,
care
right?
of you, Tom. Tom, whatever
Hey,
you got,
listen, on that care package, I promise
All right.
you there's going to be at least 500 free minutes on a card.
This guy's done 50 more podcast episodes than us.
I got nothing to say.
Oh, that's good
amazing.
stuff.
What's
Hey,
that?
hey,
That's amazing.
Hey, he's sabotaging us. That's all it is, dude.
That's it.
Love it. Hey, Tom, you hit on a lot of things,
There
man.
you go, yep.
I'm going to go back to your answer. I loved your answer to the question. You touched on purpose. You touched on mindset, responsibility. You talked about it, but I call it skill erosion. I mean, you talked about skill erosion. Every day that comes between you and a rep, is eroding. I picture in my mind when I talk about days and shifts going by without throwing a ladder, without getting your gear on, without masking up, without stretching a line. In my mind, I'm sitting on a beach of information and skills, and every wave that comes in is pulling it with it. And it's my job to fight those waves every single day. And if I skip a shift, if I skip 2 shifts, it eats me up to the point where it's bothering me inside. And I get to work, and every little thing bothers me if I can't get to train with my guys, because I understand the importance of that. And I took that a lot of that from you guys, and seeing what Fit to Fight Fire is doing and talking about mindset. So kudos to you guys, man. When you train the way that you guys talk about training, on the other side of that suffering, there's confidence building, and you're creating comfortability. So the gear doesn't matter, the mask doesn't matter, the masking up doesn't matter, the heavy ladder doesn't matter. Just another day in on the job. A buddy of mine, Pablo, was commenting earlier. He talks about it. He throws ladders every day at work. So when he's on a scene and he throws a ladder in gear with his mask on and his fire gloves on or off air, he never thinks about how hard it is. He never thinks about how uncomfortable he is, how hot it is, or how heavy the ladder is. It's just another ladder throw. And it's up to us to make everything that we do in our profession just another ladder throw. If I'm in a house and I'm worried about how hot I am in my gear, or how my pants don't fit me right, or I can't get my hood up, or I can't get my mask on, or that's the last thing I should be thinking about on a fire ground. If I'm ever in that position, I failed to prepare for that situation, and that's on me. And I commend you on that, man. You guys have really done a great job making the fire service aware of this, and myself included.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you just try to show up every day. I mean, there's so many times with everything you got going on in life, that you show up and you're like, man, I could like take a day off, and that goes in all parts of our lives, right? Like I talked about earlier, whether it's as a father or personally or professionally, whatever, you just got to continue to say, all right, I know I don't want to be here, or I know I don't want to do this, but I got to do it because it's what I said I would do, right? Because I committed to, I swore the oath when I got hired, or I told my wife, till death do us part, or I decided to have kids, those commitments, like they're never easy. None of it's ever easy, but you just got to move forward, right? One step in front of the other some of those days. I mean, we all have the high seasons of our career where it's easy to get motivated, and then we have the low seasons of our career. I've been through them. I'm not immune to them. There's some months that go by in my career where, man, it's tough. It's tough going to work. Just other circumstances around, that going on, and you just power through, and you just realize, all right, what's the number one mission? The mission is them. All right, I can focus on that. I can focus on that for 24 hours, and that can keep us disciplined to stay the course.
Work fixes everything.
Let's. I want to drop back to a task level, just to kind of clear up the picture a little bit. I don't mean to regress, but when your guys threw the ladder on the side, did they throw? It's kind of hard to see the size of the building. I get if they're standard heights, if they're 8-foot ceilings and all that, but did they throw a 35, and did they do it with two guys, or how did they throw your 35 to that third, and how steep was it? I know the shed was a little in the way.
The 24-foot extension ladder got to those third-story windows, so they were just single-man throws.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. That's that was the only thing I had. I just wanted to kind of clarify that. Yeah, but hats off to you, man. I know everyone. You surround yourself. Me being a captain of a station, I'm a captain of a station. It's a specialty station. I feel like my job's easy because my crew is so solid, and I feel that you kind of were in the same deal because your crew was on point, but the fact that you still quarterbacked it. People don't understand that one little term, one little thing, one little point in the right direction can change the game a little bit. You know what I mean? From the experiences, the company officers doing all that, and then that trickles all the way down to the newest guy, because let's say you're doing so much, getting it going, people trap, confirm, unplugging. Your new guy or your firefighter said, "Hey man, take a deep breath." You know what I mean? Like, he went back to the basics because that's where he's at, and it just kind of solidified the whole operation. And I think that's a killer point to take from your new guy, and that's a killer point to take that there's a lot of stuff going through the company officer's mind, pushing down, and when you guys meet in the middle, it just works. Just works.
Hey, Tom, you still with us?
He's moving, but...
Hey, Tom.
Give him a second.
Damn, that was such a good line, too. I'm gonna give him some cricket minutes real quick. Hold on, I got my phone right here. Let me get some cricket minutes for him.
Hey, Tom. All right.
Blink once if you want to be here. He didn't blink, boys.
All right.
Total sabotage.
He's sabotaging us.
Dude, I can't wait to go on Fit to Fight Fire. I'm just gonna stare. Even though I got good Wi-Fi, I'm just gonna stare at the camera the whole time.
Just like that. All right,
You know
boys.
what I've noticed? So all his pauses are like sexy pauses.
Yeah,
he
they
doesn't get
are.
an ugly pause.
Yeah.
If that was
No,
me, I'd be like,
Bro, my man does not have an ugly face, bro.
No.
that's a beautiful man.
Hey, so we definitely got a lot to take back from Tom. The feedback that I've been getting on text message and through the comments have been fucking phenomenal. Hopefully we can get him back on when his Wi-Fi gets back up. It seems like he's right here. We're gonna kind of wind this down. Hey, Tom, you with us?
I'm here.
All right. So we're gonna wrap this up, but I got one question to ask you.
Man, I had such a
Okay.
killer statement too in the end, and your phone froze. You know, I'm not repeating myself anymore. I'm done with you, Tom.
He can watch it later.
It's okay.
All right.
I sense the frustration. I'm sorry, guys.
No. You're good, brother.
You're good, man.
Hey, Tom. So I got one thing to ask you, and then we'll let you go. I know you got some kid issues, and so do we. What's the one
Wi-Fi issues.
What is the one thing you want to leave the fire service with? What do you want your legacy to be?
Man, I've actually had to think about that a lot lately in the past year or two. But really, I want to leave it with people who knew me, who worked with me, knew of me, whatever stories they tell about me. It's that he wasn't afraid to stand up and do the right thing. Right? When everybody else thought it was wrong, it was still right, and I still did the right thing, Not afraid to stand up and defend for what's right. That's what I hope my legacy is, That there's a lot that goes into that, but it's life's struggles, so to speak, and adversity, I think gets you to a point where you think about stuff like that of okay, well, what's really important to me in life? What is something that I really want to leave the world with, leave my kids with, whoever is in my inner circle, they know me about, that's what I want to do is hey, this is a guy that no matter what, he'll stand up and do what's right.
Well,
That's awesome.
it's Rob has your book. I have your book. Greg's getting your book right now.
Sorry, I'm a little behind. Rob.
It's,
On that.
What you guys are doing for the fire service is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up your butt. It's truly phenomenal. The three of us, we always talk about leading from the front. It's don't say nothing that you're not going to do. And obviously, you were called that night, and you showed that, hey, look, it's just not a T-shirt and a sticker that I'm wearing. I truly believe in everything I'm selling you, and I'm doing it with you. Hats off to you, man. And I truly appreciate you coming on here and spending some time with us and talking to us. It's been greatly appreciated.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Sorry about the troubles, but hopefully we made something that was listenable.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
I want to add too that I'm always thumbing through. I'm every day on shift. Guys have some chill time or whatever. I go read an article. I read the firefighter survey. I read the NIOSH reports. It's just kind of a nerdy thing that I do. I knew of Fit to Fight Fire. I've scanned through your things here and there, but after listening to the way you guys handle stuff and the way you guys do stuff, and actually talking to you and texting with you on the phone and just talking here and there. And then after the podcast, you guys, you got another fan, man. And I do mean that. I don't throw that out there that easily, but I'm kind of an angry dude. But you do have a fan, and I believe in what you guys are doing, and hopefully to see a lot more from you. And then when we get our grab, we'll call you and tell you.
And I can have you on ours.
Cool. I got to get a grab first, though. My life is boring. I gotta
Hey,
get a
you
grab.
definitely set the bar way high there, Tom, and it's going to be a little while.
Even on a down week, you'll find something better, man. Don't even waste your time.
Well, again, thanks guys for having me on. I mean, truly an honor. I love what you guys are doing. I mean, John and I talk about all the time. You know, when we started the podcast, it was like, you know, we don't know if anybody's going to listen. We don't really know what the content we're putting out there is, and you guys are in the same boat too, right? You're creating content, but it makes a difference. It doesn't matter. We said when we started, it doesn't matter if 10 people listen to it. If we can.
Yep.
Give somebody some insight or help somebody, even one person out. You know, we do a PTSD episode and one person, it saves their life, which we've gotten that message. It makes it all worth it, you know?
Yeah.
And so everything you guys are doing, I know, and I know what you're going through and the time commitment, all that goes into it. So I definitely can appreciate what you guys are doing and keep doing what you're doing.
Awesome, Tom. Nice to meet you,
Thanks,
brother.
man.
On my behalf, nice to meet you. You guys are killing it. You're motivating. You're inspirational. I've been using your material forever. You have the best marketing people in the world. I don't know who you're using, but it's freaking fire. And we're just happy to be here, man. I'm looking forward to working with you one day, meeting you in person. Thanks for your time, bud.
All right,
Hey,
thanks,
thank
Rob.
you.
And tell your crew too, man. Like, hats off to them. Like, we don't cut it short because of those guys. I mean, we're, like I said, we're all officers, and we know what a vital part they played in that whole operation. You just happen to be the mouthpiece today. We get it. That's what we are.
Yeah, sometimes as an officer, you just got to get the hell out of the way, you know?
Yeah.
That's it.
Hell yes.
Hey. We appreciate it, Tom, and hopefully you and John want to come on the podcast sometime soon, and we'll talk more.
Yeah, I'll just make sure it's at his house with his internet.
We'll check his internet first.
Right.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, it went fine, man. Cool. Thank you.
Hey, thank you
All right,
very much,
thanks.
Tom. What's up, fellas?
All right, we're still live, so don't say anything stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
That fucking
Hey.
guy. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding, Tom. I know you're backstage.
No, listen,
Hey.
man. Go ahead, Herbie. Go ahead.
Hats off to that guy, dude.
That was my line.
Just being so humble and giving it 100%, leaving it all on the line is huge. It's we all talk about it, and you're not finding that too often, especially this day and age.
Man, as humble as he is, it sounds like his crew is even a little more humble, which I find that
Yeah.
unbelievable. But
It starts at the top.
yeah, but I mean, realistically, if you go in and everything's gelling, I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's another day at the office, but that's how those guys look at it. They train and they train and they train and they train, and then they do it, and then they get it. Yeah, I get it. Inside the firehouse, it's high fives. It's jacked up, can't go to sleep even on 2 cup, drinking some mud, doing your report. Next morning, you buy some beers from the guys and all that, but nobody needs to know about it because that's our thing, man. That's what we strive for, and I get it. I understand it, and I like it. So it was very cool. Like, I got to talk to him a couple times and kind of a shortcomings and everything, and I just knew, man, he's got something cool. So then I started looking up Fit to Fight Fire and all that, and sorry, I'm behind the times on that little operation, Rob. Thanks for telling me about the book. Now I feel like a jerk. Thanks, bro. Appreciate that. Thanks for looking
here
out for me. But I ordered it today, and earlier today, and I can't wait for it to get here because I'm gonna dissect it, and I'm gonna send him dirty pictures.
Well, what do you got for us, Rob? Anything?
I'm just happy to have met him, and we got to talk about a lot of cool points. We touched on targeted searches, oriented searches, split searches, VES, beyond the door. We talked about throwing ladders, backseat intuition. We talked about a lot of cool things today, and I'm getting text messages and all types of emails right now as we're talking. And some guys are taking stuff back to the firehouse. And like Tom said earlier, we're not here for the numbers. We're not here for we're here for them. And so if one person takes something back, it's a home run, and I had a blast doing it.
Well,
No,
and the cool thing,
100%.
the cool thing that Tom said too is, I got this from their podcast earlier today, that I'm going to take something away from this. I'm going to take the backseat intuition. I'm going to show my guys that now there's a label on it. Now there's a name on it. And I feel that they have it, but now they can be kind of, they got something they can hold on to. Not held accountable, because that's kind of a crappy little statement, but they got something they can hold on to. Like, listen, I need some backseat intuition from you guys, because we're going to split. Whether we do the outside of the building, the inside of the building, whatever the case may be, that's what we're going to do. And I need you guys to be on that. What can I do to help you? How do I teach you, show you? What do we do? We're going to go that route. So I did definitely take something away from their podcast, and I definitely took something away pre-going live when we were talking to them.
Hey, David Coe, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you having being another listener. It's huge.
Hey, Herbie, I'm gonna give a little shout out if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I'd like to give a shout out. The National Rescue, three of us, Herb, myself, and Dave McCulley, went over to Tampa and did some work with the Cigar City Fools, and I was kind
True
of
class
pumped.
acts.
What's that?
True class acts.
Well, I went over there. I was kind of pumped going over there, but kind of a standard, normal pumped. You know what I mean? Like, I get to do some stuff, no stress. Herbie's not going to make me print certificates. I'm not going to have to worry about anything. Drink some beers, talk smack, do whatever. When I went over there and the first group came up, actually, even let me back up before that. Meeting the instructors, working with Sean McKay at Element Rescue, and all the board on the Fools, that how pumped they were, and to have us there and doing stuff, and we're like, all right, this is cool, this is getting better. And the next morning, when the members showed up and they were like, hey, what's up? And you're like, okay, we did our thing, we built our little subjects and little things here and there, and they were so into it because they wanted to be there, and it was like, all right. So I started getting a little more pumped up because of the fact that they wanted to be there, listening to what I had to say and showing them things. And then they were asking some questions, and we're like, well, I don't know, let's try it. And so it was good, man. So hats off to that whole Cigar City Fools, that Tampa area. Even their crews came by, ladder trucks, engines, and all that, and those guys were top notch as well. They didn't step on any toes. They came in. I mean, there were some guys that could probably show me a few tricks here and there, and they kind of stood their ground and listened, and it was a class act operation. So hats off Cigar City Fools. I appreciate all that, and their hospitality was bar none.
Hey, Greg, I'm going to add to that. Since we're on the subject of Fools, all right, I want to give a shout out to my Fools chapter, which I'm a Fools member of, a little bit over a week away, December 4th, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Broward County Firefighter Benevolent Hall. They're hosting a training event. MECO is a sponsor. $75 gets you Rick George, Bill Gustin, Stephen Shaw, and Eddie Monahan doing garage doors, resiliency training, some standpipe stuff and engine company operations, and some forcible entry. You can't buy training like that from names like that, or for $75 at any conference, and you're getting it in your backyard. If you guys have not signed up, make sure you go on the South Florida Fools website and sign up for the December 4th hot training. And before it goes unmentioned, we myself, Greg, and Herb would like to wish Mama Gleason a happy birthday. Mama Gleason, Timmy Gleason's mom. Happy birthday, Mom.
Hey, if you guys have not seen the episode with Timmy Gleason and us, you will see Mama Gleason. She does a couple cameos.
She does.
And
I think she was making some shepherd's pie in the back. I'm not sure.
Yes.
I'm not sure what was going on there.
So, cheers to Mama Gleason.
Hey, so now that we're on the subject with our boy Timmy Gleason, real quick, the hats off to him too, because I text message all you guys in our little group message that we have. Did you guys see that one of my friends from the military reached out for one of his buddies, blah blah blah, and he saw that program, and because of what Timmy said, he assisted and needed some help and all that, and reached out and got it. So I'd like to tip a beer to Timmy Gleason for that, because who knows where that could have gone, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Timmy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
I have nothing to do with that. I'm just the mouthpiece of it.
All right, so a couple quick announcements. So we got 3 spots left for the Advanced Rescue and Survival School that's held January 6th through the 8th at Indian River Fire College. We're capping it out at 35, and we only have 3 spots left. It's going to be one hell of training. We look forward to seeing everybody. We got 2 guys flying in from Ohio. We got Georgia. We got people from Alabama coming in. It's a big event. So we look forward to seeing everybody there. We are going to host it again, but this is going to be the big one. Hats off to Treasure Coast Fools. They are doing a Brotherhood Bash on the night of the 8th. Cheers to Treasure Coast Fools.
Hey, Treasure Coast Fools too is top-notch organization. I mean, when you reach out to those guys, when we do, for no matter what, it doesn't matter what it is, when we reach out to them, they never balk. It's like,
Nope.
yeah, sure, how can I help? What do I do? That's
awesome.
the kind of guys that I mean, those guys are legit, man. And I appreciate everything that they do for us. I will have to say that Rob's going to be in his survival, which is pretty cool. Legit class. I've seen it a couple times down in Fort Lauderdale. He's going to be trashing a little bit of the RIT guys, but we're making RIT money. We're making RIT cool, and you're going to be busy. You're going to be busy. You're going to be tired. It's going to be the shit.
This is going to be one of those classes, and so we'll tag on our boy Rob. It's going to be one of those varsity as fuck classes,
Varsity as fuck, boys.
Another class that we have, one of the lead instructors for the Dirty South Engine and Truck School is going to be Rob and Greg. We're going to be holding that at Indian River. Greg's going to be running the truck school. Rob's going to be doing a bunch of the engine stuff. It's going to be good. Anybody that's listening, you guys know that if you've ever taken a class with NRC, we don't do unrealistic shit. We give you realistic, but we make you work for it, and we make you earn it, and you're going to enjoy it. And then when we're done, there's always going to be fellowship at the end. I promise you that. So in March, Treasure Coast Fools have already said, "Hey, don't worry about it. We're taking care of the Brotherhood. We got it taken care of." So those dates are going to be coming out here probably in the next week or so.
Hey Rob, I'm not sure what's going on my schedule. I'm looking at it right now, but I might try to swing in there on December 4th, just to check it out. You know, maybe bring some swag down there, talk a little NRC nonsense. But I'll see what I can do. It'd be good to see a bunch of those guys too.
100%. So they're going to put on a good show. Those guys are locked in. I spoke to the president, Mickey, today, and he's excited about it.
Well, so we're going to wrap this up, and I know I say it all the time, and I'm going to say it again. We truly, truly, truly appreciate every fucking thing you guys have done for us. The feedback from this show feeds myself, Greg, Rob. Like, you guys make us want to do this all the time, and it's awesome. We appreciate everything you guys have done for us. We appreciate all the feedback. If there's anything you guys want to hear us talk about, or if there's anything you want us to hit on, or guest speakers you want us to talk to, let us know. Drop us a line, nationalrescueconsultants.com, info@, and we'll do it. We're doing this for all of us in the fire service. We live in a great time where social media is key. When the three of us got into the fire service, there was none of this. You went to conferences and that was it. And you got their numbers, and then probably for Greg, because he's a little older, he probably got their beeper numbers. So you used to have to shoot him a little beeper fucking code, let them know, hey, 911,
You're welcome.
come text me. But we appreciate everything, man, and that's we are truly humbled by the feedback that we get from you guys.
Hey, one last thing for the Can Man too. No shout out for the stash from the Can Man. I feel a little disappointed about that. So we'll see what happens.
Where you at, Liska? Where you at, Liska?
Yeah, where you at, Liska?
Well, so with that being said, fellas, I think we're going to wrap this up. As always, we're going to give a shout out to the sponsors. We got Breachpoint USAR. We got TNT Rescue Tools. We got First Do Screen Printing. We got MECO Fire. We got the Can Man radio show. We got Nozzleman Leather. And we also have Hydroman Apparel. He, dude from St. Pete, great dude. Hit him up. He'll take care of you. Hydroman Apparel. Other than that, man, I got nothing for you guys. Like I said, I appreciate everything. Greg, you got anything for him?
No, man. Thank you, everybody out there. You make us push forward. We try to make things better. We try to get the right data. We only tell the truth, and we try to keep it real. And I appreciate that. And the two guys next to me, they make me better. They push me hard. They make me better, and they make me want to up my game every single day. And I appreciate that, and I love them for doing that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I have some choice words for you. But yeah, that's the nicest thing you've ever said, Greg. Take care, guys.
Blood kisses. Blood kisses.
All right, Herb.
Hey,
Thank you, guys.
appreciate it, brother. Hey, Train to Live podcast number 7. We're out.